different carriages. I met Carrie last on the train to school when we were 15. It was 7:14 a.m. and I was sitting in her seat. She glanced down at me like a librarian looking down at someone over a tall desk. Her hair was platinum blonde, and she had a full fringe so thick and long that you couldn't quite see her eyes. Then the sun saluted her like she was a heavenly operation. "Oh," she said, "all right, my little train companion, you're sitting in my seat." That might sound like she was trying to be mean, but she genuinely wasn't. It was weird. We both seen each other loads of time. We both sat at the village's station every morning. Plus Aled and were the last people to leave the train. Plus Aled and her were like the last people to leave the train every evening. We'd done this since I started secondary school, but we've never spoken. That's what people are like, I suppose. Her voice was different from how I imagined. She had one of those push London made in Chelsea accents, but it was more charming than irritating. And this spoke slowly and softly, as if it were slightly high. It also worth noting that I was significantly smaller than her at this point. She looked like a majestic elf, and I was like a greenland. And I suddenly realized it was true. I was sitting in her seat. I had no idea why. I normally sat in a entirely different carriage. Oh God, I'm sorry, I'll move. Wait, oh no. I didn't mean move. Wow, sorry. I must have sounded really rude. She sat down in the seat opposite of me. Carrie last didn't seem to smile, or feel the need to smile. Uncomfortably, like I was doing, I was extremely impressed by this. Aled wasn't with her. She didn't strike me as odd at the time. After this incident, I noticed that they sat in different carriages. That didn't strike me as odd either. I didn't know him, so I didn't really care. "Don't you normally sit in the back carriage?" she asked me, in a tone of a middle-aged businessman. Yeah?" She raised her eyebrows at me. "You live in the village, don't you?" she said. "Yeah, opposite me." "I think so." Carrie nodded. She kept an unnatural straight face, which was weird, because everyone I knew always tried so hard to smile at you all the time. Her composure made her look significantly older than she was admirably classy. She rested her hands on the table, and I noticed that they had tiny burn scars all over them. "I like your jumper," she said. I was wearing a jumper that had a computer with a sad face on it underneath my school blazer. I looked down because I'd forgotten which one I was wearing. It was early January and it was freezing, which was why I was wearing an extra jumper over my school jumper. This particular jumper was one of my many items of clothing that I bought but never wore around my friends because I thought they laughed at me. My personal fashion choices remained at home. Do you? I stammered, wondering if I misheard. Carrie's chuckled. "Yes." "Thanks," I said, shaking my head slightly. I looked down at my hands and then at the window. The train moved suddenly, and we set off out at the village. "So why do you sit in this carriage today?" she asked. I looked at her again properly this time. Until this point, she'd only ever been a girl with dyed blonde hair who sat at the other end of the village train station every morning. But now we were talking, and here she was. She was wearing makeup, even though she was still in lower class. lower school, so it wasn't against the code of conduct. She was large and soft and somehow powerful. How did this manage to be the nice but not smile at all? She looked like she could probably murder someone if she had to. She looked like she always knew exactly what she was doing. Somehow, I knew this wouldn't be the only time we would ever talk. God, I didn't have a clue what was going to happen. I don't know, I said. Somebody is listening. Another hour passed before it was the acceptable time to move to Johnny R's. And I was trying to stay calm and trying not to Facebook message my mom and tell her to come pick me up because that would be the blame. I knew I was lame, but no one else was supposed to know that. We all stood up to head over to Johnny R. I was feeling a bit lightheaded and like I wasn't really controlling my legs, but I still heard Ronnie say, "This is nice," and pointing at my top, which was just a very plain cuff-and shirt that I picked out because it looked like something Maya would wear. I almost completely forgot about Alec, but then as we were walking down the street, my phone started to ring. I took it out of my pocket and looked at the screen. Daniel Hun was calling me. Daniel Hun had my number only because being head boy and girl, we ran a lot of school events together. He never called me and only texted me 4 or 5 times with mundane school event related things such as, "Are you setting the cake stand or am I?" And "You collect tickets at the door and I'll direct people in from the school gate." This added to the fact that Daniel disliked me meant that I had no idea why he was calling me, but I was drunk, so I answered the phone. "Hello?" Muffled voices and loud steps. "Hello, Daniel." "Hello?" Shut up. "Hello?" "Daniel, why are you calling me?" More dubstep. Daniel hangs up. I look at my phone. "Okay," I said out loud, but nobody heard me. A group of lads barged past me, and my foot slid off the curb, and I was walking in the road, and I didn't want it to be here. I needed to be doing work, revising essay questions, writing up some math notes, reading my message from radio, drawing some sketching ideas for the video. I had a mountain of stuff to do, and being here was, to be honest, a complete waste of my time. My phone rang again. "Daniel, I swear to God." "Francis?" Is this Francis? "Alec?" "Francis." Dubstep. I barely knew Alec. I barely spoken to him before this week. Why? What? Why are you calling me? "Oh, Dan tried to prank call you." I think I didn't. I don't think it worked." "Okay. Where are you? Is Daniel with you?" "Oh, we're at Johnny's." "That's so weird. I don't even know who Johnny is." Dan's laughter, muffled voices. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine, sorry. Daniel called you again." And then he gave the phone. I don't know what really happened. I don't know why I'm talking to you. I walked a bit faster so I didn't lose my friends completely. "Elliot, if Daniel is with me, then I'm just gonna go." "Yeah, sorry, yeah." I felt bad for him. I didn't get why he's friends with Daniel. I wondered whether Daniel bossed him around at all. Daniel bossed a lot of people around. "It's okay. I don't really like it here," I frowned. "Francis?" "Yeah, I don't really like it here." "Where? Do you like it here?" "Where?" There was a silent moment. There was silence for a moment. Well, silence except for the tiny dance music and the voices of laughter. "Aled, please just tell me whether Daniel is there so I can continue with my eating and not worry about you." "I don't know where Daniel is." Do you want me to come and take you home or something? Hey, it sounds like you're on the radio. My mind went instantly into university and radio silence. God, you're so drunk. Hello, I hope somebody is listening. He hung up. I felt my stomach drop at his final words. Hello, I hope somebody's listening. I said under my breath. Words I spent the last 2 years listening over. Words I'd sketched again and again inside speech bubbles. My boredom will. Words I've heard in a male voice and a female voice, changing every few weeks. Always in the classic World War II old-time radio accent. The opening line of every university episode was, hello, I hope somebody is listening. Made it. The bouncer at the door didn't question the driver's license I presented to him, which belonged to Rain's older sister, Rita. Despite the fact that Rita is Indian and has cropped straight hair, I wasn't sure how anyone could mistake an Indian girl for a British European girl, but there it is. Gotta love white people. Johnny's entry was free, and it was before 11 p.m., which was good news for me because I hate spending money on things I don't actually want to do. I followed my friends inside. It was exactly what I expected. Drunk people, flashing lights, loud music, cliches. Mate, you coming for more drinks? Rain shouted at me from 15 centimeters away. I shook my head, feeling a bit sick. Maya heard me and laughed. Oh, Frances, bless your heart. Come on, just one more little shot. I think I'm gonna go to the loo, actually, but Maya already started talking to someone else. Do you want me to come with you? Asked Rainy. I shook my head. It's fine, I'm fine. Okay, Rain grabbed my arm and pointed at someone incredibly on the other side of the room. There's a loo over there. Come meet us at the bar, yeah? I nodded. I had absolutely no intentions of going to the loo. Rain waved and wandered away. I was going to find Aled last. As soon as I was sure that my friends were suffocatingly distracted by the bar, I headed upstairs. They were playing Indian rock on this floor, and it was a lot quieter too, which I was glad of because the dubstep was starting to make me feel a bit panicked, like it was a theme music for an action film, and I had 10 seconds to save myself from an explosion. And then Aled was literally right next to me. I didn't plan to go and find him before he quoted university, but that couldn't have made me convinced. Could it? I didn't plan to go find him before he quoted university, but that couldn't have been a coincidence, could it? He quoted it exactly, word for word, with the exact explanation of the hiss, the S and somebody, and the slight gap between list and listen and a thing, and the smile after the second period. Did he listen to it too? I never met anyone else who had ever heard of it. It was quite amazing that Aled hadn't been chucked out of the club because he had passed out, or he was asleep. He was sitting on the floor anyway, leaning against the wall in a way that made it obvious that someone had put him there, probably kind of protective of Aled, or so I had heard. Maybe it was the other way around. I crouched down in front of him. The wall was leaning against him by the arm and shouted over the music, Aled? I shook him again. He looked nice asleep, the club lights flashing red and orange over his face. He looked like a child. Don't be dead. That really ruined my day. He jerks a wig flying forward off the wall, butting me square in the head. It hurt so much, like I couldn't even say anything except for a soft motherfuck. A single tear emerging from the corner of my left eye. While I was curling myself into a ball to try and minimize the pain, Aled shouted, "Francis Jaeger," and he pronounced my surname correctly. He continued, "Did I just hit you in the face?" Hit is an understatement. I started back, uncurling myself. I thought he would laugh, but his eyes were all wide, and he was quite clearly still drunk. And he was just, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry." And then because he was drunk, he brought his hands to his forehead and gave it a little pat, like he was trying to magic the pain away. "I'm so sorry," he said. Again, his expression genuinely concerned. "Are you crying?" "Oh, wow. I sound like Wendy from Peter Pan." His eyes blurred momentarily before looking at me again. "Girl, why are you crying?" "I'm not," I said. "Well, on the inside, maybe." That's when he started to laugh. There was something about it that made me want to laugh as well. So that's what I did. He rolled his head back against the wall and brought his hands up to cover his mouth while he laughed. He was so drunk, and my head was pulsating again, and the place was disgusting. But just for a few seconds, everything was absolutely hilarious. Once he'd finished, he grabbed my denim jacket and used my shoulder to push himself off the ground. He instantly slapped his hand against the wall to stop himself from falling over. I stood up too, not quite sure exactly what to do now. I didn't even know Alec got like this. Then again, it's not like I knew much about him anyway. It's not like I had a reason to care. "Have you seen Dan?" he asked me, leaning in and squinting, his hand flopping back onto my shoulder. "Who's—" "Oh, Daniel." Everybody I knew called him Daniel. "No, sorry." He looked at me down on his shoes, and he seemed very much like a child again. His longish hair, more appropriate for a 14-year-old. His jeans and his jumper just looking kind of odd on him. He just looked so, I don't know what it was. And all I wanted to ask him was about university. "Let's go outside for a sec," I said. But I don't think that would hurt me. I put my arm around his shoulder and started pulling him through the crowds, through the low bass and the sweat, through the people toward the stairs. "Aled," I halted in my tracks. Aled rested more of his weight and turned my face. Daniel was barging through the dancers to get us a full cup of water in my hands. "Oh," he said, looking at me like I was a pile of dirty plates. "I didn't know you were out tonight." What was his damage? "You literally called me on the phone, Daniel." "I called you on Aled's phone because he said he wanted to talk to you." "Aled said you were trying to pimp call me." "What? Why would I ever do that? I'm not 12. "Well, why would Aled want to talk to me? I don't even know him." "Why the hell would I know?" "Because you're his best friend, and you've been hanging out with him tonight." Daniel didn't say anything to that. "Or I guess you haven't," I continued. "Yes, I was just recussing Aled on the floor." "What?" I laughed a little. "Did you just leave your best friend passed out on the floor in a club, Daniel?" "No." He held up the cup of water. "I was getting him water. I'm not a complete dick." This was news to me, but it felt a step too far to tell him that. Instead, I turned to Alex, who was swaying slightly against me. "Why did you call me?" He frowned at me and then popped me gently on the nose with one finger and said, "I like you." I started to laugh, thinking this was a joke, but Alex didn't join him. He let go of me and slunk his arms around Daniel, who staggered backwards a little in surprise, bringing up his other hand to steady the water. "Isn't it weird?" said Aled and lifted up his military son Daniel. That I was a taller one for like 16 years, but now you studied me a taller. Yeah, that's so weird, replied Daniel, with the closest thing to a smile I'd seen him in several months. Aled rested his head on Daniel's shoulder and closed his eyes, and Daniel patted Aled again gently on the chest. He muttered something into Aled's I couldn't quite hear, and then handed him the water. Aled took it without saying anything and started drinking. I glanced between the pair, and then Daniel seemed to remember I was there. Are you going home now? He said. Can you take him home? I put my hands in my pocket. I didn't really want to be here anyway. Yeah, sure. I didn't just leave him on the floor, he said. I was getting him water. You already said that. Yeah, I didn't think you would leave me. I shrugged. Daniel moved Aled over to me, where he immediately clung around my shoulders again and spilled a bit of water on my sleeve. Shouldn't really have brought him here anyway, said Daniel, but he was saying it to himself, I think, and I could honestly see a bit of regret or something in his eyes. He gazed at Aled, who was at the verge of falling asleep in my arms, club lights flashing on his skin. What? Aled mumbled as we stepped into the street. Where's Dan? He said, I had to take you home. I said, I wondered how exactly I was going to explain that to my friends. I made a mental note to text Rand once we got to the train station. Okay, I glanced at him, because he suddenly sounded so much like the shy Aled I had spoken to on Parents' Evening. That Aled with the whispery voice and the shifted eyes. You get my train? He continued, and we started walking down the empty high street. Yep, I said. You and Carrie sat together. My heart did a little jump in Carrie's name. Yes, I said. She liked you. Said Aled. More than, he said, lose his train of thought. I didn't want to talk about Carrie, so I didn't press him. Aled, do you listen to university? I said. He stopped walking instantly, and his arm fell on my shoulders. What? He said, straight lines bronzing him and drawing ours neon sights flashing shortly behind him. I blinked. Why did I ask that? University, he said. His eyes dropped and his voice loud, like we're still inside the club. Why? I looked away. Obviously he didn't then. At least he wouldn't remember this conversation. Doesn't matter. No, he said, stumbling off the curb, almost falling onto me again. His eyes were wide. Why'd you ask me that? I stared. He waited. I thought I heard you quote it. I might have been wrong. You listen to university? Yeah, I said. That's so unlikely. I haven't even gotten 50,000 subscribers yet. Wait, what? Aled stopped forward. How did you know? Dan said. No one would work it out. What? I said, with more force. Work what out? Aled said nothing. He just started to grin. Do you listen to university? I said. Duh. By this point, I had forgotten why I was asking, whether it was because the idea someone else loved it as much as me, and I didn't make it feel less completely weird, or whatever. I just wanted Aled to say what he was seemingly refusing to say. I am university, he said. And I stood there. What? I said. I'm radio, he said. I'm radio silence. I'm Make University. And I just stood there, and we said nothing. A gust of wind whipped around us. A group of girls laughed. From a nearby pub, a car alarm was going off. Aled looked away as if we were someone standing next to us that he could see, but I couldn't. Then he looked back and put my hands on his shoulder, leaned it in, and asked quite generally, Are you alright? But I didn't quite know how to say that I'd been obsessed for 2 years with the podcast show on YouTube about adventures of an agender science fiction universe student who always wore gloves and used special powers and detective skills to solve mysteries around the city. The name, which is a stupid pun I had ever heard in my life. And I had 37 sketchbooks in my room with drawings that I had, which is the stupidest. I had 37 sketchbooks in my room with drawings I'd done for this specific show, and I never met anyone else in real life who had ever even heard of the show, and I never even told any of my friends. And just now outside Johnny R's on the last school day before study leaves, I found out a person whose twin sister has been temporarily best friends and who lived opposite of me my entire life. A person who never said anything when he was sober was the person who I made it. This tiny, blonde 17-year-old who never said anything, standing on a high street. "Oh, listen," said Alex with a blurry smile. He was so drunk. Did he know what I was talking about? It'd take hours to explain, I said. I listened to you for hours, he said.